Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Hope you guys had a great Labor Day. We are laboring on Labor Day today. Again, we appreciate you guys being a part of the show. As always, thank you guys for everything that you guys do. For being a part of this, Labor Day is a very special day in this country. I appreciate all you guys that are working hard. Get to take a little time off with the family. Hopefully you guys had a great day. Appreciate all that you guys do. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys for always kicking it with us. We are going to labor on Labor Day. I'm going to bring in my fellow laborer, Nevadabuck. Jim Tressel always had a great quote to remind us that we are going to labor on Labor Day, which is something he loved to say because we always had practice on Labor Day. I know that when we were playing the Texas Longhorns in '05, we practiced on Labor Day. With football, football is one of the greatest teachers in life, especially as a player or a coach, because you don't usually get any holidays off once you get to the college level. Like in high school, they'll give you some days off. You know, you might have a day off, a Labor Day off, a Memorial Day off, but when you're in college football, you don't get any days off. So Tress used to always say on the Monday of Labor Day, when everyone else is out picnicking and swimming and having fun with their families, that we are going to labor on Labor Day. So I texted him to remind him of that and say that was one of the funniest things ever when he used to always say that. And he said, let me get this real quick. He said, I believe he said, we are blessed to be able to labor on Labor Day, because Jim Tressel he is my Confucius. He said, blessed to labor on Labor Day. And he posted a couple muscles and flex emojis. So he is the best. I love Tress, but I love that. Nevada, thank you for laboring on Labor Day, for us, with us, by us. Let's talk a little Michigan to start this thing off, because you were talking in pre-show, and again, I don't know how many people are putting second mortgages out to take out as much money as they can on this Texas game, but I think the Longhorns are going to smash Michigan. I think Quinn Ewers deserves a pair of gold pants. Everyone's going to probably throw tomatoes at me for that one, but I'm excited for the Longhorns. I'm excited for them to go up and smash Michigan. I think that most Ohio State fans will be rooting heavily for the Longhorns. Quinn, who again refers to Michigan as the team up north, because he was a Buckeye, is a Buckeye, will always be a Buckeye. He's the guy that I think could put a dagger in their heart pretty early in the season, put the repeat hopes on ice pretty quick. But what are your thoughts? And talk a little bit about this line movement, because it was a massive jump from -3 to, I don't know what you said, is it a 5-5 or 6-5? But I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, Quinn Ewers, maybe one of the most misunderstood players ever that was ever at Ohio Stadium for a brief period of time. And I know a large percentage of the fan base doesn't like the guy, but um, man, that story is they got the story wrong. Quinn's a great kid. He's a great kid. He's a great quarterback, and he's going to put on a show. He's going to go high in the NFL draft. He'll play a long time in the NFL, and he's going to lay it on Michigan this week. And that's the great thing about having a morning game like that, little big noon kickoff with Texas playing against Michigan, and then we do the night game. So we've got an entire full day of entertainment, and I will root for both games with equal enthusiasm. I'll be doing the hook 'em horns thing, much like I would do the OHIO, because I really want Michigan to get it laid on them, and I think Quinn and Texas are just the group to do it. Yeah, the lines moved. That was a preseason advanced line that when we were talking about over the summer, I think it was -2. Now it is literally -7, which now you've blown through 3, 3.5, 4, 6, 6.5. I mean, you've blown through so many key numbers, that and to move a line like that, it literally takes millions and millions of dollars to move an established season line like that between two major teams like Michigan and Texas. So a lot of money going on Texas. A lot of people fading Michigan. I think it's absolutely appropriate. I think Sharon Moore's in over his head and is going to get exposed this week. And that's going to be fun. Like I said, as much fun as it is watching Ohio State do good, it's equally as much fun doing Michigan do bad. So this weekend, I think we're going to get both of those things all within 12 hours. That's a great Saturday by any measure. You're on mute, Mr. Barton.
Sorry, I was gonna say the money line has moved from -230 to -270 today. I mean, that is a huge move for there not being any injuries, not being any. there's nothing other than a lot of money's coming in on Texas. I mean, I just, after watching Michigan versus Fresno State, now they're going to play, one of the top two quarterbacks in the country with, I think it's him and Shador are the top two guys in the draft rankings right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see what those guys do. It's going to be exciting because again, I love when Michigan loses. I love the pain of their fans. I love that it's going to be a former Buckeye that's going to do it to them. Like that's going to be. I'm giddy about it. Because again, Michigan, they wrote the softest schedule I think I've ever seen last year to a national title, and this year they get to pay the piper because they get to play Texas, Oregon, and your boys, Nevada, the Fight On boys, who looked really, really scary last night. They looked really good. Are you feeling good about that minus that over under of 9.5 at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, I told everybody before the year that USC was going to be a lot better. I mean, people were not. They were sleeping on USC, and man, USC's got their quarterback is legit. They've got a new defensive coordinator. They've got athletes all over the field, and USC. I mean, the Big Ten just got way tougher. I know everybody likes when we have all the premier games, and we don't have the Sisters of Antarctica, and we have this and that. But man, I'm telling you what. Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA will rise up and beat some teams too at some point. Probably not this year, and maybe not under Deshaun Foster, but UCLA is a good program. But USC is a sleeping giant, and I think Michigan's got to go at Washington, and even Washington being down a pint, that is going to be a very difficult place for them to play. USC, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas. I mean. Yeah, Michigan's going to get challenged. They're going to get their comeuppance for that softest pudding schedule they had last year. But this year they don't dodge many teams, and that'll be fun. It's starting this weekend.
I love when USC is good, and that was the funny thing. And again, I don't like crap on Yoder. I love Yoder, but when he said that the three teams that moved the networks are Alabama, Michigan, and Ohio State, I was like, dude, when SC was good, like in the Kirkster days 20 years ago, and they had Reggie and Matt Leinart, and I mean, dude, we couldn't wait to watch those guys. I mean, and again, the funniest thing was when I went to the Senior Bowl in January of 2008, like I was basically adopted by USC because there were like 7 Trojans on the North Senior Bowl team, and I was the only Ohio State guy that got invited to the Senior Bowl. So I was kind of by myself, and so I like Sam Baker and Fred Davis and Drew Radovich and Cedric Ellis. And it was all these guys that were really good players, great dudes. John David Booty was the quarterback. It was funny because our 3 quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl were Joe Flacco, who nobody had ever heard of, Chad Henne, who obviously I knew very well, and John David Booty. And John David Booty was and again, I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody else said it. He was the first guy that I could remember that reclassified. He literally went from being a junior in high school to a senior in high school overnight and graduated early. So he was like the Quinn Ewers, but this was 20 years ago. And that was before, you had the ability to do that really. Because again, the thing that really made it a lot easier is online classes, and you could double up an English credit. It always usually came down to an English credit. And it was always hard to double up the English credit to get out of there for junior. Now schools have gotten a lot more accustomed to it. Because frankly, some of these high schools were having kids transfer so that they could graduate early. Like that was the big reason why Paris Johnson left St. Xavier, was because they would not let him graduate early, and he wanted to graduate early, so he transferred. So a lot of these schools figured out that we better let these kids graduate early. Like Massillon, Justin Zwick wanted to graduate early to come in with Maurice Claret, and Massillon didn't offer that. So Justin was stuck until showing up in August. Because back in the old days when I played, we didn't show up in June. Now these kids at the absolute latest show up in June. When I was coming out of college or out of high school, we showed up August 5th, the first day of training camp, it's just as insane as it sounds, which is why it was so much harder to contribute as a freshman, because, when JJ gets here in January, he has 9 months of training, learning the playbook, learning the offense, throwing with Will Howard under his belt before he even plays a single game. Where like back in the olden days, like me Anthony Gonzalez, David Patterson. We showed up like the first day of training camp, and it was like, we didn't know. Like I didn't even know the offense. Like I never was had a playbook, a play packet. So I had to go out and practice the first day, and I didn't know any of the plays. Like I mean, you do your first install, and it's like, okay, here's 20 plays, and good luck remembering them and all the audibles and all the checks when you're the first day as an O lineman. So, and by some miracle of God, I still made the 2 deep as a true freshman. So, like Jim Tressel said at his first press conference coming out of camp, we were getting to play the Washington Huskies, and it was a primetime game, and the whole world was watching. And he said, like, the 5 freshmen that need to be ready to play it was Louis Irizarry, Ira Guilford, myself, and like 2 other, Dante Whitner and Ashton Yabodi, who both graduated early. Those are the 5 guys that need to be ready to play this week. And I was like, well, that's news to me. Nobody said I was going to play. And frankly, I didn't even want to play. I was like, I don't want to play this first year, because back then, if I played a single snap, like I burned a red shirt and I wasn't ready to play, and I would have barely played. I would have been a backup tackle on a team that didn't score very many points. So you're not going to blow teams out. I'm not going to get any action. So I actually didn't even want to play my freshman year. I was the opposite of most of these kids that want to play immediately, and they need instant gratification, and they're scared that people are going to call them bust. I was like, I don't want to play my freshman year, because for one, I'm not going to be very good, and for 2, I'm too small, and for 3, I'm not going to play a lot. So like, then the next year I ended up starting as a redshirt freshman, which was all part of my master plan. Worked out great. And then my 5th year was the year that I was an All-American. So if I had burned my redshirt that first year, I'd have never gotten that 5th year. And, if I don't get that 5th year and I'm not an All-American, then Nevadabuck does not have a tree in the Grove. And that would be devastating.
I was just thinking that. I literally was just I was like, damn, we wouldn't have.
That close.
We would not have a tree. Instead, we have a tree. It's so great, Kirk.
The Nevadabuck, the Buckeye Scoop, Nevadabuck, Twin Peaks, Buffalo Wild Wings tree is in the Grove. When you guys walk through Buckeye Grove and you see one that's got like a Panera Bread sticker and a Buffalo Wild Wings and Twin Peaks, they'll say there's Kirk sponsored by Kirk the Capitalist. The big Buckeye Scoop logo on it, and like neon lights, and off bottle service girls with little things and stuff. Yeah, it's great. So
you've got the Charlie Brown Christmas tree, like the little tree with like Linus's blanket around the thing and everything like that. So,
dude, somebody I don't know who it was. I don't know. Someone sent me a text on Saturday that they walked by my tree and they're like, "Man, you got to get that thing on some creatine or something, or get it on some miracle drinks." They said it was looking a little sad. I was like, it's probably those henchmen from the Woody Hayes. They're over there. They're dumping herbicide on it, trying to kill my tree. My poor tree is just clinging to life right now. Those guys are over there killing my poor tree. Oh my God.
We need to dress it up for Christmas, man. We need to really like go over there and just like give it some love, man. Like Snoopy did with his like tree.
Yeah,
like big lights and then
Linus's blanket around it.
Exactly. We need to take care of it.
Oh my God. I think that's a genius idea. We should do that. Would be hilarious. Now there's no power, so I can't run power and have lights, but if there's some sort of a solar Christmas light, I should put that on there and put like a little Nevadabuck angel at the top up there holding a box of a box of nuggets. He's like, hey, we got nuggets, I'm here for it. So we'll talk a little bit about a monster is coming into town this week, a kid that I love. I love me some Neiman Lawrence. Neiman Lawrence is a freaky prospect, probably the best quarterback in his class. He's from the high school that has maybe the coolest name in history. It's called Ransom Everglades. So whoever designed that school name is a genius. Because I was like, ransom? Like if someone gets kidnapped, you have to put them up for ransom. That's what Ransom Everglades is. So this kid's coming up this weekend, 6'2", 190. He is a South Florida Express kid. Loves Ohio State, loves Chip Kelly, loves this offense, which, again, if you're any quarterback in the universe, I don't know how you don't love this offense, and loves the flow of SFE kids to Ohio State. Nevada, I'm going to toss his tape on, but he is a sprout now. He's a freshman. He played varsity as an 8th grader, so this is long-term post Julian Saint, Tavian St. Clair era. But this is a kid, with quarterbacks, I'm telling you folks, you can't get on them early enough. So the fact that this kid is going to him and his folks are going to spend their hard-earned money to come watch the vaunted Western Michigan Broncos come roaring into town versus the Bucks. I like how that bodes. Again, it's the same with Nevadabuck got a great little nugget about the game plan, and he said on the board it's going to all run through JJ. because of Caden Dixon-Wyatt and Chris Henry Jr. And sure as can be, Nevada cashed his anytime touchdown, I think 5 minutes into the first quarter when JJ scored. And, like it happened. I mean, JJ was the player of the game, literally in front of the top two receivers in the country that are in high school. Caden Dixon-Wyatt, Chris Henry Jr. They're both at Mater Day. Obviously, Chris Henry transferred from Ohio to go out to Mater Day. But what are your thoughts on Neiman Lawrence? I'm going to toss this tape on real quick.
Yeah, I mean, big time player, kind of a prototype of what you're looking for. And, as you said, it seems early on these guys, but you can never get early enough on quarterbacks. They're all looking to be, because they know that you're more than likely 99% of the time going to offer only one. And if you bring in one guy, they want to be the leader of the class. They want to be kind of the titular head, the guy that handles the recruiting and is kind of the face of the class. And this kid's good. I mean, he is the highest regarded quarterback of his class in the country. Now, could that change over the next couple of years? Sure it could. But he's a big timer. The guys out at SFE who know good quarterback play. They know the difference between good quarterback play and bad quarterback play. They say this guy's absolutely the truth. And like I said, he loves Ohio State, loves Chip Kelly, and the type of offense that Ohio State's running right now. Whereas before it'd be kind of looked at as almost like a college offense where you've got the running quarterback and everything. Now it's a prototypical NFL style offense of dual threat, run opportunistically, do your thing. That's what every quarterback in the NFL does. I mean, the quarterback position in the NFL has changed profoundly. And, that was kind of one of the raps against Ohio State for years, is that we weren't running whatever a pro style offense was. But now we are absolutely pro style. We can develop you. We can get you ready for the NFL. And this kid would look really good in scarlet and gray.
Yeah, and I think that you said that the quarterback thing has changed profoundly at the NFL level, which is something that is trickled down to the college level, which is trickled down to high school, where I think that there was a stigma prior to 15 years ago where if you were a kid that could run, they were going to pigeonhole you as some sort of a option guy, gimmick guy, Cordell Stewart / Antoine Randall, whatever. And now, like, those guys are the meta in the NFL. Like, I mean, you look at the top quarterbacks in the league, they're getting paid a lot. It's like Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels from the Redskins, the Commanders, whatever they're called now. Like, they're guys that can book. Even Deshaun Watson, before he tore his ACL 5 times, like he was a guy that could move and he could scoot and he could create with the legs. Josh Allen, I mean, it's so critical now, because I've said it a million times. The pass rushers are so good now, and they're so well trained and so developed, and they're so ferocious that, like, you need guys that can move. If you're going to sit down back there and be a pocket, a statue, you aren't going to last very long in the league. And again, with Will Howard, some of the best plays I've seen in the pocket in a while were him just stepping around guys, throwing darts, being opportunistic on the run. I mean, they only had like 1 or 2 designed runs where he had the one read option play where he acted like he was handed it to Quinshawn, then he pulled it, and Quinshawn became the fullback, like basically the lead blocker for him. And I thought that was great design, but I also would bet my house that Ryan Day is not going to let he's going to say, hey Chip, we're playing Akron, you don't need to hit the rushing overage in this game with Will Howard. And Chip's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, don't again, when you're playing Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, the chains are coming off. But right now, you can kind of keep the dire wolf in the barn right now. You don't need to have him out running around getting smoked by some Akron safety who's trying to make a name for himself. Because again, like you saw the hit that the kid from Akron took, the hit that Davis had hit him with early that was reviewed for targeting. Like that was something that if that happens to Will Howard, then Ryan Day might teleport into the coach's booth and strangle Chip Kelly. But you don't have to. There's no reason to fight the fight when you don't have to. But I think that again, I loved Will Howard's mobility, and again, it's not just me. Like he was literally the offensive player of the game per the Ohio State coaching staff, because I thought outside of the one brain fart where he had that little option pitch backwards or whatever, the rest of the game I thought he was clean. I thought that he didn't take chances. He managed the offense like he had. I mean, I think there were a couple times where Jim Tressel probably had a couple tears come down his eyes when he didn't have anything and he threw it out of bounds to protect the field goal. And I was like, oh my God, Tressel's probably like Oh my God, that's my boy. You're my boy, Blue. Because it's like, it's all about protecting the football and making sure that we have an opportunity to end the drive with a field goal, which we did. And the kicker did well and nailed it. And so again, I love the direction of the team. I think the offensive line is going to get better. I'm sure they got chewed yesterday. I'm sure that they got ran through at practice today. They'll have a really physical practice tomorrow. Tomorrow's Bloody Tuesday, which is always the worst day of the week when you're a college football player. Tuesday is the hardest day of the week. It's as hard as game day Saturday. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm sure it'll be turned up pretty good by Ryan. But I like the direction of the team because, like I said, we blew them out. We won by 46 points, but it wasn't pretty in a lot of people's eyes and in the coaching staff's eyes and the players' eyes. And to get where they want to go, which is beating Georgia in the championship game, they have to get better. So again, I liked that it wasn't pretty. I liked that it wasn't flawless because, those are the games where the kids can get a little, well, we did really well and we won by 70. And why are you yelling at me? And it's like, no, like this wasn't as clean as it needed to be, but we just had such a grossly inferior opponent that it didn't really matter. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada? And I got a couple of plays to go through.
Yeah, no. Look, I watched the Western Michigan, Wisconsin now, and I mean Wisconsin's not very good, but Western Michigan played with those guys. I mean, I think the game ended up 28-14, but it was not a 28-14 game. I mean, Western Michigan is literally as good as Wisconsin. So, we're going to have to bring it this week. I'm not saying to win. I'm not predicting it's going to be a nail biter that way, but Western Michigan's a team that if you're not ready to play and if you're not playing at a high level, they can hang around. And, Ohio State's going to have to turn it up, take it up to the next level. They've got a week off after that. So, they always talk about making your biggest improvement from game 1 to game 2. Well, it's time for us to make that improvement, step it up against a good Western Michigan team. And Western Michigan is no joke at all. And I'm really looking forward to the game, and it's going to be a great Saturday. Going to be a great Saturday night.
All right, I'm gonna break a play down right quick. Let me get this cleared out. All right, so I'm gonna talk about this play real quick because it's one of my favorite plays. It's something that if you guys are football fans, if you guys are football coaches, the old wing team, my high school coach Keith Wakefield is like the king. There's a guy in the world that's ran the wing team where he's 75 years old. He's back as defensive coordinator at my high school after taking a couple years off. He's the GOAT. In the first 2 games, they shut out their opponents. So he knows what he's talking about. But he runs the old buck sweep. The buck sweep is where both guards pull, and I'm going to show it to you in a second. And the biggest reason why this play has made a dramatic comeback in college football is because in the olden days of 3 years ago, the way that teams would defend the buck sweep is when you're pulling your guards out versus a cornerback or whatever. The corner a lot of times would be taught to just cut the guard, put your helmet through his kneecap so he never wants to pull and do that block again. So because no corner who weighs 175 pounds is going to be able to hold up versus a 310-pound guard who's about to kill him. So they just said cut him, create a pile. Hopefully he trips up the next guy, mucks it up a little bit. The NCAA passed a rule a few years ago where they can't do that anymore. So now you see teams running the buck sweep like crazy because you've got some hapless corner who's going to get pile drived into oblivion. And the thing about it is Chip Kelly loves to add a third puller. So let's get into the tape real quick. And again, I love this. And this is something he did a lot at UCLA. And we talked a lot on BuckeyeScoop.com. Nevada had a lot of arguments about how Chip was really hard on these guys. He wants these guys to block. So guess what? You're Carnell Tate, who, SFE kid, 5-star receiver. And you get to be the third puller. So you start the play and it's a down block. It's a down block. Here we pull our what we got? We got our 2 guards are pulling. Sometimes you pull the center, depending on where he is. So you got your block, your base block cut off, and you got your 2 pullers are coming out here. Then your third puller is poor Carnell Tate, the poor kid. So he's pulling out. And again, you could read this and maybe have like a little hitch or a little slant back here or something. But this is done well by the O-line. We muck it up. This is really nice by our I believe this is Kasmerick. He gets a nice seal here. I feel like Lombardi. We get the Will linebacker here sealed. So, at this moment, you've got your first guard and you've got Carnell for him here, seal here, and you've got Trey with a head of steam. And you literally get 11 yards before he's touched because of the scheme. Yeah, and again, the only way that this works is if you cheat motion him in and you get a receiver like Carnell who is willing enough to block. So, Carnell has to pull, which he's never done in his life. Now he's adding into the thing. And, he gets enough of this guy to keep him from making the play. Now, Carnell's not going to ever be confused with Dermody Dawson or, Orlando Pace, but he gets enough of the guy to disrupt him, which is all you ask these guys to do. And Trey gets a 11-yard run without being touched. And again, that is part of
no, Kirk. And I know you highlighted this before, but I just want to call it out again. That block by Kasmerick. I mean, he just shoots up. I mean, that's a block that we've been missing in years gone by. You know what I'm saying? He gets up there and then flips his booty to the side that he wants to keep the guy from, and that guy's erased from the play. I mean, look at that. Just goes up there and just that's a good play.
Yeah, and this is a 2 tight ends. So you have Kasmerick, you got G. Scott here. And this is kind of like you're like cheating the wing, because a lot of times you'd have him as like a wing where he'd be here. They cheat him up here so that he can get this block, because if he's too far back, he can't get this he can't pin this guy. So G pins him, and Will Kasmerick comes in and just T-bones this guy, kills him. He's completely deleted. So again, this is well blocked. So again, as much as the O-line sucks and the team sucks and Chip Kelly sucks and I suck and everybody sucks, like, that's pretty good. Because Trey got 10 yards, didn't get touched, didn't get tackled. He got pushed out of bounds. So I'll take that. It was funny because I think that was the play. That was like the longest. There was like a 3.5 minute TV timeout for something. Change of possession. That was first down. So it was change of possession, 3.5 minute TV timeout. They ran that one play with 3 seconds left on the clock. And then they had another 3.5 minute TV timeout. So that one play was like, it was the most well-rested the team could ever be. It was like having like a mini halftime, because again, the TV timeouts are like unbelievable in that game. But what are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because again, that's just like a little thing, but Chip knows the rules, and these offensive guys, the thing about offensive football is it's never been easier to do at this point, because like not being able to cut that first guy, it means that this poor cornerback is going to get taken. He's going to get, he's going to get ran out of the gym because he can't take the guy's legs out. Because again, I used to be that puller, like a lot, because a lot of times sometimes you can pull the center, sometimes you pull the tackle, just depending on where the defensive end is and who's doing the down block. But like, those corners, man, when they cut you in your knees, you're just like, you bad person. You're a very, very, very bad person. I didn't want to swear because we don't swear on the show, but when you get cut in the knees by some little tiny cornerback and he puts his helmet through your kneecap, that hurts. It stings. So now they can't do that. So now it's like, ooh, big boy gets to beat up little boy. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, I thought Saturday was kind of a repeat of, people talk about the challenges that we've had running the ball, but what's been interesting is Trey averaged 8 yards a carry on Saturday, 8.1 yards per carry. So, over the past 3 years, I think people would be like, we've really struggled running the ball for whether it be Justin Fry or Stud or the curse of Ed Warner or whatever reason we struggled carrying the ball. And then I went back and looked at the stats, and do you know Trey is second all time in yards per carry at Ohio State?
Behind who?
Ezekiel.
Really?
He's second all time. He's literally second all time. So, like, through all these problems that we've had of running the football, somehow, some way, Trey hasn't had as many problems. So I'm not saying it's an other back thing, but Trey has somehow managed to rush for the second most yards per carry in the history of Ohio State football. And we're not talking a small sample size. He's in his 4th year.
Yeah.
So maybe, just maybe, it's not quite as bad as people think.
Well, here's like, I don't think Trey is better than Ezekiel. I like Ezekiel better, and I think Ezekiel's a better player than Trey is. But Ezekiel also had JT Barrett, who was a monstrous threat to keep the ball and run. And he also had better run blocking offensive lines when he had, Taylor and Elfline and Billy Price. I mean, you look at 14-15, he basically had the same battery of JT Barrett plus the same offensive line. Obviously, they changed corner, and he had Tom Herman, who did basically Urban's running game. So, Urban Meyer is one of the best running game coaches in the history of football, along with Mickey Marotti as the strength coach. So we used to pulverize teams when we'd play them, and that's why we'd go and like Trey has to do it with a quarterback. And again, not knocking C.J. Stroud, who's excellent. I am knocking Kyle McCord, who's lead foot. So he's had nothing but quarterbacks that don't run. So you know how much harder it is to get big carries. Not to mention the fact that he's doing it with receivers that don't block. Because again, you go look at Evan Spencer and Mike Thomas. Those guys used to decleat guys. He used to kill guys. Like again, go watch the Ezekiel. His most famous run of his entire football career is the Alabama run, the 85-yard run. Evan Spencer kills two guys. He hits one guy so hard it takes out the other guy. Billy Price is pulling through. There doesn't even have anybody to hit because Evan Spencer took his guy out, which again, that's how nasty those dudes were. Because again, when Urban Meyer is the head football coach and Urban Meyer came up as a wide receivers coach, and Urban Meyer's edict was, if you don't block, you don't get the ball, then guess what? Those guys are going to block. I mean, Urban, he had Arnaz Battle, who was actually my teammate in the NFL, and he told me great Urban Meyer stories where when he was at Notre Dame, I mean, Arnaz Battle is one of the baddest dudes ever on a football field. He was an R5, which is the middle guy on the kickoff, and he would run down and split the wedge as a wide receiver. Normally that's like a linebacker, or like we have Caden Curry do it. We have like a DN do it. Like when I was with the Niners, that was Arnaz Battle doing it. And I was like, this guy is an animal. And again, that was all from Urban. Urban, he loved guys like Arnaz Battle. That's not Randy Moss. That's not Terrell Owens. That's not whatever. But you're going to be tough if you're going to play for that dude. When he was the receiver coach at Notre Dame, it was no joke. And again, that's something that we got away from the last few years. So, I think Trey's career at Ohio State, the rushing is, I don't want to say it's more impressive because obviously I can't take it away from Ezekiel. Won a national title, top 5 pick, fantastic player, but he's doing it with much more difficult circumstances with, again, CJ Stroud, who is excellent, and Kyle McCord, who's not excellent. And now he's got Will Howard, who can boogie a little bit, but he didn't have a quarterback who was a threat to run, and he didn't have receivers that blocked, and Ezekiel did it behind better offensive lines. Now, again, I think Ezekiel is better than Trey. Like flat out, if you put a gun to my head and say, Kirk, you're building the all-time Ohio State team. If I'm building the all-time Ohio State team ever and I get to pick one running back, I'm picking Ezekiel. That's just me. And everyone you can say Archie, you can say Eddie, you can say whoever. I like Zeke's game. I know Ezekiel. I know that he's crazy off the field. I don't care. But I love everything about Zeke's game, especially when he was at Ohio State, especially his last couple years. I thought he was as good as we've ever had. So, again, did he not win the Heisman? He didn't win the Heisman, but I take him over any of the other guys. And again, I love Maurice Clarett, and I love Beanie, and I love Pitt, and I love Eddie, and I love Archie, and you can say I'm sacrilegious, but Ezekiel was an absolute warhorse. And I used to watch him practice, and I was like, that's the guy I want. What are your thoughts on that, Nevada? Because again, I love Trey Henderson. As a freshman, I was like, this kid is violent. As a freshman, I was like, he is our Saquon Barkley. That was my comparison to him. He's muscled up. He's tough as nails. He can do everything. He can catch the ball. He obviously, like I said yesterday, after he killed that guy in pass protection, that is going to be the first play on his NFL draft reel. You watch. You guys can hold me to that, because if that's not the first play, it'll be the second. I mean, they might show some long run, but if you're an NFL GM or an NFL running backs coach or an NFL personnel evaluator, that is the first play. When you're saying, hey, this is my RB1 in the draft, why is that? Is he fast? Yes, he runs a 4.3. Watch this play where he kills this guy and he's smiling after he does it. He will pass block, because when you've got him next to Pat Mahomes or somebody, he better be able to protect the quarterback when they bring a blitzing linebacker. And Trey will kill you. I mean, he's a nasty dude. I know that people mistake being spiritual and all that stuff with not being like a savage. Trey is an absolute savage. I love everything about his game, and I think that I can't wait to beat to death a lot of these fans that turned on him last year, the last couple of years, because I think he's going to have a monster year. And I thought he was, if he wasn't the best player on the field on Saturday, he was top three. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, just Trey's such an interesting player because the way people talk about, I mean, and he's literally second all time. And again, I'm not going to get into, I mean, Ezekiel and Archie and, I mean, Eddie and all the great running backs that we've had here. But to be second all time at Ohio State, I mean, that's crazy. And especially for a guy that I would say that probably the majority of Ohio State fans don't think is very good. And not only is he not is he really good, he's like generational talent. All time. List. I mean, he may leave here as the all time leader, depending on what kind of season he has. But yeah, I think he's on the all underappreciated list. That's for darn sure. You're muted, Kirk.
Sorry, I got one more quick clip to show of him, and then we'll get to super chats. But it just shows the explosion. So I'll bust this down real quick. So here's our boy. This is his tight zone, easy play, and you watch this leap right here. So he gets the ball coming through here, nice double teams. Watch this jump, this little hop step in the hole, and then straight to fifth gear and gone. And he gets out. And again, I don't mind that. Like I don't mind him not taking a hit versus Akron. But again, let's talk, nice fit here by Fryer. Nice double team rocking off the ball with Tigra and Seth McLaughlin. I mean, that's literally perfect. Now, the only thing I'd ask is I'd say go lower and hit the hip. He's hitting him too high. He'd get more movement if he hit his hip, but he gets him out of there. And then you look the backside with Seyerveld. These two guys are blocking to here, and this guy dips back. So Austin Seyerveld does a great job here. And so does Josh Simmons. Josh Simmons is in there. He's taking over this backside double team. And again, this is something, everyone says our line sucks and everybody stinks. And I think this is like a clinic tape. This is perfect. And you see our tight end back here, Kazmarek, who's really growing on me. He's got the cutoff, but that's the hardest block on the play. And he bulldozes this guy and kills him. So again, you look at the pile that's right here. That's Kazmarek. That's a Kazmarek pancake, where he literally takes his guy with McLaughlin and they both pile drive him into the ground. So, again, and Trey makes a great little jump cut in the hole. Fantastic. But that's a very well blocked play. But Trey, not every running back can make that jump through the hole and then be right at sixth gear like he's a Bugatti or whatever. He hits that floor and he is gone. So again, that's me. Like again, I love Trey Henderson, and and here's the thing about Trey Henderson, I'm going to miss Trey Henderson in a major, major, major way, because I think that he's going to be a very, very special player going forward. Because he, again, this is one of those things where I know we always say it, but you're guaranteed 12 games, and then you get Big Ten title maybe, in playoffs, bowl game maybe. So let's just say you're guaranteed 13. So you better enjoy these games. That's what I'm getting at. You're guaranteed 13. You're guaranteed the regular season and a bowl game. We haven't made the Big Ten title game in a few years, so I'm going to enjoy every single game that we have left of Trey Henderson, because I think he's that good. And there's nobody in this entire world that loves running backs more than I do. If you play against me in fantasy football, I take running backs the first 3 rounds every single year, because I love great running backs. Because I played with great running backs like Beanie and Pittman. I was around great running backs when I was in coaching. Carlos Hyde, Ezekiel, those guys. And I've also been around bad running backs. And I will take good running backs any day of the week, because it makes the entire football team, it makes your defense better when you have a great running back. Think about that. It makes your head coach better. It makes everything better when you have a great running back. So as much as they like to devalue the position and make it cheaper and stuff, there's nothing in the world I like better than watching great running back plays. And Trey Henderson is a great running back. We can get into some super chats now. Anything else to say, Nevada?
No, I totally agree. I think look, James Peoples is going to be good, but Quinshon and Trey are otherworldly good, and it's going to be fun watching those guys. Hopefully, we get it going this weekend in a big way, and those guys can show what they're worth.
All right, the sausage, thanks for the 5. Love the channel. Will there be a live Buckeye Scoop play-by-play this season? Muting the network talking heads for you all would be massive. Nevada, we've talked about this. We haven't executed it. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, because Nevada gets a little fiery during the games and he might swear too much. We might get taken off the air for, I'm just teasing, but we've thought about it. We've kicked it around. It's one of those things where, the sanctity of watching the game with your families, and I usually go to the home games. So to be real honest with you, I live here. So, the home games would probably be out. The road games, maybe a question mark, but I do enjoy watching it and studying it. And, I feel like I could do a much better job of explaining stuff in the post game show if I'm really locked into the game as opposed to running a broadcast, which again, when we do this broadcast, I tell you guys all the time, it's harder for me to follow on the chat. It's harder for me to, when I got to do the video, the telestrator, make sure that the scenes are right, make sure that the thing's smooth, that I'm not on mute. Like there's 8 different things I'm trying to manage when I do a show. So I wouldn't want to take away from your game watching experience. And plus I feel a duty that when I come on the post game show that I've studied the game. I've rewound the plays during the commercials. I've got my notes. I kind of have my thoughts organized so that when you guys tune in, that you guys get like a deeper understanding of what happened, what was great, what went wrong, what'll get fixed, whatever. So, again, I'm not against doing a watch party. But I know that I enjoy watching the games with my family. You guys know my family, obviously. Well, Nevada has his family he enjoys watching the games with. So that's the hard part, honestly, is doing a live watch party. And honestly, I don't know, it might go okay. We might test it out at some point, but I know a lot of you guys are having parties or you guys go out to Twin Peaks or Buffalo Wild Wings and enjoy it. And, I think we'd have people that would watch it. There might be some people that rewatch it, but I love watching the games with my family and studying it really intently. But I'm always open to suggestions. And again, if you guys have suggestions for this channel or content that you would like, leave it in the comments because we read the comments, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. I like every comment. I don't care if it's bad. Kirk, you're dumb. You don't know anything. That's fine. I don't care. I have rhinoceros skin. It doesn't get to me. But I love hearing what you guys like because we want to give you more of what you guys like as long as we are able to do it. So, Nevada, your thoughts. Again, thank you for the 5. Love the channel. Will there be a live Buckeye Scoop play-by-play of the season? Muting the network, talking heads for you all would be massive. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, just so hard, so hard to do it. Like I said, we're crazy. We work every day of the year and we do a lot of crazy stuff, but I just don't know. I'd much rather do a play by play of like a Michigan game or something else where we just kind of goof on Michigan the whole time. Something less because Ohio State games are kind of I don't want to use a religious thing, but they're a sacred time around the Nevadabuck household. So tough to do, but I understand a lot of people like that stuff, and maybe at some point we'll do it, but I'm just not sure.
Well, and the other hard part is, and again, this is just a small thing, but it depends on what people are watching on. Because I have YouTube TV, some people have Direct TV, so and they're not usually synced up perfectly. So sometimes I might be talking about something that might be 20 seconds behind what you're watching. So again, and that's just a small thing. It's not an excuse, but it is a real thing. I'd probably have to put I am watching on YouTube TV. So if it was trying to be a live sync, because I don't know if last year in Nevada when we did the Alabama Michigan game, if you had DirecTV and I had YouTube and you were way ahead, you're 25 seconds ahead of me, and it was hilarious because you had to refrain from commenting so we could kind of be on the same sync. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm up for whatever. But that's the same reason we don't do watch parties at one of our vendors at Twin Peaks or B-Dubs because we have to be ready to go at post game. That's the big thing is our post game show. I mean, we had as many views as all the other ones combined because, we bring the heat and we're ready to go as soon as the game's over. And people want to know what happened. So they tune in to listen to us and, we give them, this is what happened. This is what we studied. This is what's going to get fixed. And, we had a humongous audience after the game on Saturday and we thank you guys for that. But, it's hard for me to really watch the game and rewind it and do what I need to do to study it when I'm running the show. It's I only have so many eyeballs and, I want the show to be, exceptional. So I really want to make sure that the show is tight and it's good. So yeah, but again, I appreciate that. And it's something that we'll absolutely consider because again, we're always growing. I mean, again, we didn't really start podcasting like we do now until late last year. And now it's this is our favorite part of the day. So we're always looking to grow and figure out what you guys like the best. Jose Alvarez, thank you for the 5. I knew JJ would be good, but I didn't think he would be wide receiver 1 at OSU day 1 good. Well, we trust the people at SFE, and we've known about JJ since he was in 7th grade. I mean, we've talked to him, and they said, we got one coming, and he is going to be that guy. And if we can get him to Ohio State, he's going to be that guy. And so we've known about JJ before basically anybody. Like 6, 7, he's a 6th, 7th grader, and started hearing about Jeremiah Smith and the legend of JJ, and so Scoop had it first, I guess, that he was going to be good. But I mean, he literally, it was a revelation, because he's just a different kid, man. Because he doesn't care about anything in the world except football. That's it. He's Optimus Prime. Like, I call him Optimus Prime. I coined that nickname because everybody compares him to Calvin. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to compare him to Megatron and Optimus Prime. He's the counterpart. And I'm telling you, like when guys, here's some telltale signs. Like, we have all kinds of people that see practice all the time, and we get all kinds of tips on who's doing good, who's not doing good. So we can kind of, talk about it a little bit. But we'd heard about JJ being great, and we heard about him dogging guys out in practice. And, again, when we have people there's some people that will watch the same practice and see two different things. But, when we start hearing it from higher up sources, and then you start hearing it, like when you start hearing it in the media from guys like Jim Knowles saying that he's like, it's terrifying when he's out there. You got to hold your breath when he's out there single covered. Like, guys that are like 85 years old, like Jim Knowles, they don't say stuff about freshmen like that. When Ryan Day is talking about him, in spring ball, like, you don't hear coaches talk like that. Because they're not trying to put more pressure on JJ. They're not trying, they're trying to keep him under wraps, keep him, under cover. Hey, hopefully he can get out there and chip in, and he's doing great. But like the effusive praise that was coming from a guy like Jim Knowles was where I was like, whoa, that's like, guys don't say stuff like that about freshmen, like, ever. But here we are, and we there's a huge nugget that Nevadabuck wrote last week detailing the Akron game plan. We said it's the whole offense is running through JJ Smith, and I was like, "Are you sure about this?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm absolutely sure it's going to run through JJ Smith." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Well, Caden Dixon Wyatt's coming in, Chris Henry's coming in, and he's the best player on the team." I was like, "Okay, enough for me. That works out perfect." So sure, it's going to be. We get to the game. Who's the player of the game for the entire team? JJ Smith. I don't think that's ever. I mean, maybe Maurice did that in his first game when they played Texas Tech or whoever, and they beat the tar out of him. And he ran for 200 yards or whatever. But that's a rare bird. And JJ is a much different character than Reese was. So, yeah, it is a arrow pointed to the sky at this point for JJ Smith. Nevada, Jose, again, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, man. It says, I knew JJ would be good, but I think he would be wide receiver 1 at OSU, day 1 good. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen often. I mean, you're talking about guys like Orlando Pace, guys like Clorette. I mean, it's a rare air that JJ's in, and look, when I first heard about him, I didn't believe it, and you don't really believe it until you start hearing about it from everybody. And as we always say too, the players know who the players are. And when the players are going on about him, about what a super freak he is, that certainly got my attention. But yeah, it was hard to believe that any kid could live up to the hype, because nobody's ever that I can ever remember getting as much hype as this kid. And then he goes out there and catches 2 touchdown passes, 92 yards or whatever it was, in limited action. Um, yeah, he's the real deal. But he enjoy him while he's here. It's 3 years. We get it for 3 years. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen. I know I've never seen a better freshman wide receiver at Ohio State than JJ Smith.
Yeah, he's that guy. Excited for him. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. Hope you're doing great, brother. I can't wait to see you at the next meetup, which I should get announced in the next couple of weeks. I mean, we're into September now, and I know that they wanted to do it late September. I gotta get with them and figure out the date. Say you had an intern that had never studied tape before. What would you tell them to look for on every play, or what's the basic process? What a fantastic question that is. To me, honestly, it depends on what position you're playing or studying or coaching. because that is where the lines of delineation come in. If you guys did not listen to my Chris Carter interview, please do. I'm not trying to pad my stats or get us more views, but Chris is a literal football genius when it comes to playing receiver and understanding coverages and understanding what to study. And he went kind of in on how he would figure out what coverages people were in pre-snap. He did stuff like look at defensive end stances, and he'd be in the stance where I know that he's going to drop into coverage and it's going to be some sort of a fire zone cover 3. And so he could tell based on where the safeties were, if it's man, if it's zone, what kind of, if it's cloud coverage. Like, I mean, he went into a nice little spiel about it, but for me, it depends on what position you're studying. Like if I'm teaching an offensive tackle how to study film, the first thing I teach them, and I used to say this to Reed Fragel, and I say it to Jack Muir. I talked to Jack Muir for about an hour today. He's going to come on the show pretty quick here. I tell him to look at the safeties. You know, when you're an offensive tackle, study the safety. If you're a center, study the safeties on film, because the safeties will tell you where it's coming from. They'll tell you where the pressure is coming from. They'll tell you what the coverage is going to be. A lot of times safeties will cheat. If a corner is going to blitz, a lot of times that safety comes off the hash a little bit. He'll normally be right on the hash, and if he starts creeping over to basically have to cover, where the corner's coming from, he's coming off that hash, and that was always a huge tell for us. I'd study the stances of the D linemen, based on where their feet were, their hands were. Again, I don't want to get too granular because I know you guys will just glaze over, but there's a lot of stuff you can study. Like as an offensive lineman, I'd always want to study. The first thing I watched every week when I played football at Ohio State and in the NFL, I'd watch third and 5 plus. There's always a cut up 3rd and 7 plus, like the downs where you know that there's going to be a pass rush and you know that you can watch the guy's best move. Because if it's 3rd and 10, Jack Sawyer or JT, they're going to give that defense or that offensive tackle their best move. It could be a spin move. It could be a speed rush. It could be a speed to power. It could be a bull rush. Like you got to figure out what are their best moves, And again, what's their money move that when they know they have got a chance to rush the passer, what are they going to go to? And I'd always try to figure out if a guy could spin, because most guys can't spin. JT has a ferocious spin move. Doesn't do it a ton, but when he does, it's really effective. So figure out if they can spin, if they're allowed to spin. Figure out if there's any tells in their stance. Look at, again, you can always tell by their hands, their feet, and that's the same. Like if I'm a defensive player, if I'm James Laurinaitis and I'm a linebacker, I'm studying offensive line stances all day, because a lot of offensive linemen cheat their stances. They'll cheat if they're pulling. They'll cheat if it's a pass block. They'll get a deeper stagger so that they can vertically set faster, get it back in their pass pro faster. They might even up their feet if it's a run play. But again, there's all kinds of little tells that you can learn. If you're trying to study and coach and make a tip sheet, that was stuff that I'd learn. And then if you're just a player and you're just trying to learn the game, or study a good player, I'd always tell the guys, look, study somebody who has a similar body type to you. Like for me, as much as I love Orlando Pace, I could watch a lot of his tape, but he's like 6'7". I'm 6'4". So I had to find smaller, shorter tackles that I could study and kind of use their stuff. Now, I loved watching Orlando, but it's like if you're Charles Barkley, like you're not going to get a lot out of watching Shaq, because you're not going to play the same type of game. If you're a 6'5" power forward in the NBA, like you can't really watch a ton of Tim Duncan who's 7'1". So I don't know. I just like to. I always find nuances and see what they liked. And again, I give a lot of credit to Jim Bowman. Jim Bowman is the guy that got beat to death when he was here as an offensive coordinator. But, it helps when you're an offensive lineman and your O-line coach is the play caller and is the OC. Because when you're the OC, you have to know the passing game really well. And Bowles was a tight ends coach in the NFL for the Chicago Bears and kind of all over the place. So he knew the passing game really well. And that's how he really learned the coverages. And once you learn the coverages and where the safeties are, you can really understand where blitzes are coming from. That's the first thing that young linemen should study is the safeties. Nevada, I have talked for about 35 minutes straight right there, so I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But I try to give D Sunny really good answers because he always gives us really good questions. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think that was a pretty in depth answer. I mean, when I was coaching, I would just tell every team has certain guys that will kind of lead you to the ball, especially when you're looking, when you're because I coach defense, and so some teams it's the guards, some teams it's the center, some teams it's the tackle, some teams it's the lead blocker, whoever it is. But just find the guy that leads you to the ball most of the time. Most of the time, that's where you'll do it, and that's the guy you're going to read off of, and if you do that at just the most basic level, man, that gets you about 80% of the way.
And also, if you coach youth basketball, run the inbound play box because it is undefeated and it worked every single
And
time.
if you run it properly, it can't be. It's like the crane kick, can't be defended. So
Oh, I love it. Eric's Spicy, thanks for the 5. After watching USC last night, Scum might drop 2 home games before we even hit October. Chef's kiss. Nevada, I'll let you talk on this one because, again, USC looked really good. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I had them before. That was not a surprise to me at all. And I think people that were kind of writing off USC, I knew didn't know about what was going on at USC or that had watched a few games of USC at night and just kind of come to the conclusion that they couldn't play defense and would never play defense. I mean, they fired the defensive coordinator, and they look completely different. And I love where they're going. I don't like USC as a program. I always root hard against them when they're playing Ohio State, but it's college football is better when they're good. They're like you said, they're one of the blue bloods. They're like the New York Yankees or they're like the Dallas Cowboys. And USC is going to be a great addition to the Big Ten, and we're going to have some epic battles coming up against those guys in the near future. So the Big Ten just got a heck of a lot tougher.
Honestly, they have to be your favorite addition to the Big Ten, like by far. Correct?
Well, it's a tie between Oregon's cheerleaders and the USC song girls, and so like that. I mean, that's like it's like 1-2 or like 1-1-1A or something like that. So it's close, man. It's close, and then I look at our cheerleaders and I'm like, oh man, like, like we're Ohio State. You think Ohio State would have like the best looking cheerleaders in the world? We got a bunch of Burt Cartons running around out there, and a bunch of little girls. I just I don't know. I don't want to get creepy on the show. We're gonna move on to the next topic. But yeah, the Oregon cheerleaders and USC Song Girls are undefeated for the win, number one, forever and ever. It shall be
Strong.
strong and strong.
I'll tell you what, man. When I would use USC cheerleaders as a thumbnail, man, it was like 30,000 views instant. I was like, man, that is
Yeah,
powerful. So the USC, yeah, USC when they're good, man, college football is better. Like I love when they're good. Um, and like I said, teams can change. Like you go back to the 2013 Buckeyes, like we couldn't stop a nosebleed. Or even 2018, we've had those years where our defenses has not been good, not been up to stuff. It's been a disaster. And then you switch and you get you bring in Chris Ash in 14. You bring in Halfley in 19, and magically our defense like locks down and is really good. So again, you can change the attitude and the structure of the defense, and it can make it much better. And plus, a lot of those guys, they spend an entire offseason getting beat to death by the local media and the local fan base saying how bad they suck. So a lot of those guys decide to get better. So yeah, like SC being good is excellent. And Donald Cared Rospect, thanks for the 5. Hope you guys are doing great and having a great night. The O-line will be running on all 8 cylinders by the time Big Ten play starts. They looked good to me, Nevada OH.
I oh
Well, here's my thing. And like I always consider, okay, what are we working with here? So we got Austin Seyerveld, who's a redshirt freshman. He was probably the least heralded guy in his class. Maybe Padilla was, but like Luke Montgomery was the guy who was the bell cow, big time dude. Austin was kind of a guy that no one was excited about. Played on a bad team at Lakota East, and it turns out like he's the guy. Like he's the guy who's starting. He's the guy who had a really great camp. He made his first start. I thought he did some really nice stuff. Like I mean, this is like one of those things where obviously Donnie's going to take the job back, but Austin, I think if Donnie comes back, I think Austin is right in the mix for the right guard job with Tigra, and with with Carson Hinsman and Luke Montgomery and whatever. So, I think that we had a guy we had two guards making their first career starts. We had Seth making his first start as a Buckeye. And then we got our tackles back. And again, our left tackle missed half of training camp with hand, foot, mouth disease. So a little rusty. But there's stuff to build on. Again, we won by 46, but there's enough where Justin Fry could light these guys up and Ryan Day can light these guys up. And eventually, like you get tired of being yelled at, and eventually you decide hey, we're gonna make this, we're gonna be way better. I don't care if they have to sleep in the facility and on air mattresses and be in the gym 8 hours a day and whatever. Trust me, I've played on lines that were terrible. They got much better. Again, if you guys want to have a laugh, go look at my first career start. We played the Iowa Hawkeyes in '04. We lost 33-7. And I think that we had something like 30 carries and we had 27 yards rushing. So we averaged like 0.9 a carry. And by the end of that season, we beat the Michigan Wolverines 37-21 in the Horseshoe in a game where we were like 14-point dogs, at home. We beat the tar out of those guys. And then those guys went on to play in the Rose Bowl, and they almost beat Vince Young and Cedric Benson in that Rose Bowl. Texas had to kick a last-second field goal to beat them. So we got much better. Now, did some guys lose their jobs? Yes. Did I eventually, take over as right tackle? Yes. But again, like that Iowa game was like that was on the bottom. We were 3-3. Everybody in the town wanted to cancel the program, fire Tress, fire Bowles, fire everybody. And we got much better as the season went on. So again, I've seen crappy O-line play. I've been a part of crappy O-line play. And guys like Nick Mangold, who's a borderline Hall of Famer, was on that line. Rob Sims, who played in the league for 8 years, was on that line. Doug Dadish was a draft pick. He was on that line. And we decided to get better, and Troy started playing, and Pittman started playing, and magically, like, everything got way better. So again, I've lived terrible line play. I didn't think that Saturday was terrible. I thought that there were some moments that could have been better, but I thought it was above average. Again, like I've seen bad. I can show you guys bad. Like what my first start, we were terrible. And again, that's with a Pro Bowl center, a first round pick center. Like we still weren't very good. So Nevada, what are your thoughts? Again, Donald Kieran Rossbeck, thanks for the 5, says the O-line will be running on all 8 cylinders by the time Big Ten play starts. They look good to me. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, we can go back through Ohio State history so many times.
Whew.
Game 2 of this 14 season against Virginia Tech. I mean, it's been littered with games where you haven't played your bets. And look, we won by 46. So, it was a wonky game. There was a lot of delays. There was a lot of things, and we still did some good things. And like I said, the running game, Trey still averaged 8 yards a carry. So somehow Trey Henderson was getting it done. And I feel like we could have passed on just about any play and we'd have been okay, but we didn't, and I'm sure that there's a reason behind that as well. So yeah, I'm I'd say that to me it was not a passing grade. You're saying above average. I'd say it was below average, but I defer to you because you're the All-American. Even though we both have a tree in the Grove, I do defer to you when it comes to that. But I'm probably a 4 out of 10 if you're a 6 out of 10 on the O line, and looking for improvement this week.
Well, I mean, we didn't give up any sacks. Like, I don't think Will Howard took any tremendous hits. And, like I said, I know, I remember playing these games. Like, guys aren't excited to play these games. I know it's the first game of the shoe, and I know that everyone's excited. But, when we play a real team, I think these guys will be even better, more juiced up. But again, like I said, I like that it wasn't perfect, and these guys can get beat down a little bit because I think it'll make us better for the long run. Survive the Hunt. Thanks for the 20. I always see the videos of a team bringing in the weird magician to do tricks in front of the team. A&M on game day this week. Who was the best guest or speaker that Tress or Urban brought in to talk to or motivate the team? That is a great question. And, for me, because I'm different from almost all these kids because I'm like a Ohio State historian. Like people don't realize how much I study and love Ohio State football and how much I know about it. And I don't just magically recall all this stuff because I just happen to have it in my brain. I like studying it. So, he brought in Jim Stillwagon, God rest his soul, who was one of the baddest human beings who's ever walked this planet, and he gave an incredible speech about toughness and how beating Michigan was everything, and get Woody Hayes stories. And I was always a sucker for good Woody Hayes stories. I loved learning about who they all called the old man. That was like his nickname. Jack Tatum would come in for Michigan week, and Jack Tatum was like one of my favorite players of all time. He was not a love conquers all kind of guy. He was a ruthless, killer of a human being. And those were like my dudes. Those were my ilk. And I loved Jack Tatum. When he would come in and talk about Michigan and he would swear like 700 times in front of Tress, I loved it because I was just like, oh, this is so good. This is what it is. And like you say, the first thing you do when you play Michigan is you hit them in the MF in mouth and you knock those MFers and MF. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is amazing. I'm sitting there, I was like, oh my God, I'm listening to Jack Tatum talk about wanting to kill Michigan. And I was like, oh, so good. And then Earl Bruce was always great. Earl Bruce would come in on the Sundays before the Michigan game. Tress was like the literal motivational genius. Like Urban and Tress were just impossibly good motivators. Very different styles. But Tress would bring in Earl Bruce, God rest his soul as well, to God rest all three of them. I mean, three guys I'm talking about. I was lucky to be at Ohio State because they're all deceased now, and they're three of the most diehard greatest Buckeyes that ever lived. Earl would come in on Sunday nights, and we'd have our film session. We'd have a little practice. Then we get cleaned up, and then we'd eat dinner, and then we'd go have a team meeting after dinner. And he, Earl would come in, and Earl would like melt the walls with the speech, and he'd always talk about the '69 game where, the year before in '68 it was the year that Woody he scored 50, and I had gone for 3. Why did you go for 2? Because I couldn't go for 3. Like that was the year. So then that next year when all the whole team's back and they go up to Ann Arbor, and Earl's an assistant for Woody, which is the best. Like I love hearing these guys because it's kind of like they pass down the stories, but like Earl's an assistant. And again, I got to live being an assistant at Ohio State and doing this, but like when you're at Michigan Stadium at the big house, like, when you're an Ohio State coach, to get to the press box, you have to go up 800 flights of stairs in the middle of the stadium. Like they don't have an elevator, whatever. And Earl, like some guy grabbed him before the game, and they're all jazzed up because we smashed him the year before. And he says, we're going to kick your ass today, buddy. And he'd like shake him. And he remembers like, yeah, right, dude, we're loaded. We're the best team in Ohio State history. The '69 team was unbelievable, and they lost. And Woody was like beside himself, and he talked about how bad the town is when you lose to Michigan, which again, we hadn't lost to Michigan except in '03 when I didn't play. So like I wasn't trying to lose to those guys, but around here lately we've lost them 3 times in a row. So it was always a really nice reminder when you hear from now. Again, the kids don't need any reminder now because they've lost 3 in a row, but back then it was like, I do not want to lose this game. I'm going to, sell, like, I'm not going to sell my family into slavery, but I'll sell a lot of people's families into slavery to beat Michigan. I'm not trying to lose that game. So those are my favorites. Again, I like the guys that were, guys that I revered, like Jim Stillwagon. And I was very close with John Hicks. I used to talk to John Hicks all the time. Like I see Pete Johnson out sometimes. I love Pete Johnson. I love seeing him. I love seeing Arch, saw him on Saturday. But I to me, like nothing, there's no celebrity that could come in that could top the kind of the old guard guys, and they're getting up there now. The guys that played for Woody, the guys that tell me Woody Hayes stories, because that's what I really care about more so than a lot of this other, stuff. And, I think that that's something that's kind of died a little bit because we're so national with recruiting and we don't have a lot of Ohio people in the program anymore. Like I feel like some of that is going away because they didn't grow up in it. And again, it's not their fault. Like if I got hired to be the head coach at USC, I don't really know the history of the USC UCLA rivalry at all. Or if I get hired to be the head coach at Oregon, I don't know the Civil War between them and Oregon State at all. I'd have to learn it. And that's kind of where, guys like Ryan are and a lot of the guys in the building, they don't really know it. because they grew up in New Hampshire. And again, that's not their fault, but this is reality. But like when you had guys like Woody and Earl and Coop obviously was Coop's a great guy, but he didn't know it. Like Trust knew it, Urban knew it. So again, that was just the thing that Trust was excellent about. Is man, he brought those guys in, and they always served a great purpose. And then another my favorite guest was he would bring the whole band in on Sunday nights. So the Sunday before Michigan, the entire best damn band in the land would show up to the facility, and this is something I think Trust started. And they would take us through Script, Ohio, and like so we'd all grab an instrument and we'd walk Script, Ohio. And again, it looked terrible with a bunch of football players that are clumsy. It didn't look anywhere near as tight as it does when those guys are doing it, where it looks tactical. So we get to see all them. So we'd see the band director and all the band people, and that was awesome. So that was like my favorite celebrities, like seeing the best damn band in the land, because like those guys were great and they're awesome. And in '07, or no, excuse me, yeah, in '07, my senior year, they come in for before the Michigan game on that Sunday. And it was funny because a bunch of them came up to me afterwards. And again, I'm a lineman, so I expect them to go get Beanie Wells' autograph and photos with Beanie and James Laurinaitis. I totally get that. Like I know my place. I'm not stupid. And again, I like being kind of invisible. It kind of makes my life good. But a bunch of them came up to me and they thanked me because in the press conference after we beat Penn State in '07, they thanked me because I dedicated the game to the band. Because in '05, when we played out at Beaver Stadium, they were treated inhumanely by their fans. They had urine thrown on them. They were sworn at. It was disgusting. So they said they were never going to go back to Penn State. And I think that the last time they went back to Penn State was 2 years ago. They haven't been back. They didn't go from '05 until what, 22. So that was a long period where they used to go to Penn State every game and they didn't go anymore. So they all thanked me for saying that, because I remembered that. I felt terrible because I was like, fans, like, I don't mind if fans are nasty, but there is a line of humanity at some point where, do you really want to do that? And again, I'm sure those drunk idiots, and Penn State has the most vile human beings as fans. So again, I don't expect anything less out of those morons. So when we beat the absolute, tar out of them, and we beat them like 37-10 or something, like I was like, I can't wait to say that I dedicate this to the band, because they weren't allowed to come back. Or they didn't ever want to come back because of how badly they were treated. So, but those are mine. Again, I just loved how Trust did it, because again, we don't need celebrities, because we've got guys like, Jim Stillwagon and Jack Tatum and those types of guys. And there's guys around that are like that now. They're not, obviously, those guys have passed on, but those are my favorite guys that they brought in to motivate you. Because again, it's always good to be around guys that have lost to Michigan, especially back then when we didn't lose to Michigan like we do now. And to remind you that you do not want to lose this game. Nevada, do you have anything to add to that? Again, I think we had magicians and stuff, and I always think that that's cool when they have the guy that can read people's minds or whatever, that does whatever. But anything you want to add?
Carrot Top. That's what I want. I want to see Carrot Top address the team.
I hear he's good in Vegas.
Yeah, he is. But he looks a little strange. His face looks a little weird right now. Clearly, it's like it's. I'm not sure if it's Botox or work or whatever it is, but yeah, Carrot Top. I'd like to see Ohio State bring in Carrot Top. Change it up a little bit. You're like, let's bring in a badass. Let's bring in Stillwagon, or let's bring in Orlando Pace or something. And I'm like, let's go a different. Let's bring in Vince Vaughn. Let's bring in Carrot Top. Let's bring in somebody that's a little kinder, gentler, a little funny thing. Take the edge off. Speaking of funny, I just saw a commercial for Prime Drink, and they had Donovan Edwards as one of their spokesperson. And it's like, maybe they got to get their money back. They also have DJ Oogalugale as one of their things as well. And it's like, who's picking these guys to do these commercials? Like, what do they just get, like a Street and Smith's magazine or something like that, and pick the guys on the cover or something? But I mean, DJ Oogalugale is terrible, and Donovan Edwards stinks so badly that I just have no words.
It's more like it should be subprime mortgage.
Oh god, it's so bad.
All right, Quinn Tucky, thanks for the 20. Jack Sawyer and JT are two of the best three techniques masquerading as defensive ends. They will play 10 to 15 years in the league because of what Larry Johnson taught them. James Yoder plays paintball on Saturdays. Oh my god, that's great. Um, I don't know about Jack. I could totally see JT as a three technique if he bulked up a little bit, but I thought they both played really well at end. I swear to God, they're quicker than they were last year. I thought that and I also think they have a little bit more freedom with their rushes, but I thought those guys played great. And again, maybe I'm crazy, but I thought those guys both looked like they want to be first round picks and they want to get paid. And again, I'm not saying they didn't take it seriously, but again, I've been those guys. I've been, hey, this is it. We came back to enhance our draft stock. We came back to beat Michigan, to be All Americans, to get a tree in the Grove. So, for short term sacrifice of dieting and getting 10 hours of sleep and studying more film, like I've lived that, and and they looked like they're monstrous. I always, it was interesting that they finally did play Jack at three technique in the rush man package where they had four DNs on the field. And one thing that I think maybe my favorite thing about the entire game outside of Will Howard's escapability was how much we rotated defensive linemen. Because I saw every time I looked up, I saw Mitchell Melton in, I saw Hero Canoe in, I saw Kenyatta Jackson in, I saw Cade McDonald in, and I was like, thank God we're not going to play Jack and JT for the entire game. Which again, I don't. As much as I want to hate on Larry Johnson for that, I think you got to hate on Kenyatta and Caden Curry because those guys weren't ready to go because those coaches did not want to play those guys every single snap versus Notre Dame. That was the craziest thing. That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But, you have to be a guy in practice that forces the coaches to play you. I've said it before. I'll say it again. If they don't feel comfortable that you can hang in there versus a first rounder, Joe Alt was the best tackle in the country last year. Went, sixth in the draft or whatever. And, he was that dude. And they didn't feel comfortable that Kenyatta could hold up versus them. Same with Caden. So, but this year, I think it's, those guys it's go time, man. They're third year guys now. They're not babies anymore. It's go time. But I loved seeing that. Nevada, your thoughts. Jack Story and JT are two of the best three techniques masquerading as defensive ends. They will play 10 to 15 years in the league because of what Larry Johnson has taught them. James Yoder also plays paintball on Saturdays. Your thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, so much to unwind. Yeah, no, you got it. Jack and JT are both in tremendous shape. Um, they were kind of bulked up a little bit last year. They're definitely slimmed down. You can tell they're noticeably quicker. I think they can play anywhere on the line. But, I like when you slide them down to the inside because I did think it creates matchup problems on the inside with those interior, offensive linemen. So, no, those guys are going to be great. Those guys will be stalwarts on NFL teams for 15 years, make an awful lot of money when they're there. As for Yoder, um, yeah, I think Yoder must be an acquired taste because I know you like him a lot, and I think he's cute and it's fun, but I wish he was smarter, at least with his takes, because some of his takes are just dumb. I just don't have a lot of time for dumb. And some of his tape, we're a national championship caliber team. We're only going to get a fine. It's like it's dumb, 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 dumb. But Michigan fans are dumb. So what can I say?
Oh, I love it so much. All right, Nevada, we had a good long one tonight. Your thoughts and wrap this thing up.
Yeah, no. Look, it's going to be a good week for the Buckeyes. I'll be interested to hear about practice, but JJ, Will Howard graded out really, really well. I don't think Josh Fryer was quite as bad as people thought. Once we got through the grading, and and clearly Lathan Ransom balled out, defensive player of the game. Really, terrific, terrific player, terrific kid. And let's get ready for Western Michigan.
Oh, we got one last super chats. Here we go, Nevada. Oh God, and it's not my tree. It's all right. Lee, thanks for the five. Kirk, do you want me to pour some Miracle Grow on your tree this weekend? No, no,
Your
I do
tree.
not. No, I do not.
That's
You have to pour it on our tree.
Yeah, that's so
Your tree. It's
insulting, man.
our
It's our
tree.
tree. It's our tree. We should have like a Christmas tree trimming, like they do like at the Rockefeller Center
Oh
where they
God.
light the tree and everybody gathers around it and sings songs and stuff like that. We should do that with our tree this year for Christmas and do that and decorate it and we have like a tree trimming and everybody do that.
We could live stream. We could broadcast it on Buckeye Scoop YouTube.
That would be
Make sure
so
you like and
awesome.
subscribe.
We light it up, and then we have Tiny Tim put the star on top of it and stuff like that. It'd be awesome.
Oh my god, we could have Tiny Funk and B
Tiny,
Moses there.
Tiny fucking B Moses.
I mean, I honestly think if B Moses is like 6'6", so if Tiny Funk got on his shoulders, he could probably touch the top of the stadium. He's like,
Yeah, and they could put the star. It'd be like the Bumble that puts the stars on top of the thing, and then Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Man, we'll have the whole characters out there. This will be awesome. I'll be Yukon Cornelius, like gold.
Yukon Cornelius. I'll be Frosty the Snowman. I sweat so bad I'll just melt in the greenhouse. It'll just be a puddle of water with a corn cob pipe and two coal eyes looking up at the sauna. That'll be me. I'll be Frosty. You can be Yukon Cornelius. I'll be Frosty. Frosty the sweaty snowman.
It's like gold.
Oh my god, I'm so dead. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up before we get too delirious and we go watch this game. So I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for kicking it with us. Thank you to the Scoop family. Humongous weekend. I appreciate you guys as always for that. With that being said, thank you for this run. August is the biggest month we've ever had. So thank you for that. Again, we're cranking on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you guys are not members of BuckeyeScoop.com, I don't know what you're waiting on. I implore you guys to join because it's an awesome add to your Ohio State viewing experience, understanding football. Basically, it basically gives you unlimited super chats because you can ask me questions on there 24 hours a day, and I answer them. So again, if you guys love the correspondence and the fun, BuckeyeScoop.com needs to be your new home because that's where we're at the other 20 hours of the day that we're not on here, and I'm not sleeping for my 2 hours. So. But I just appreciate you guys so very much. Incredible August. It's going to be an incredible season. And it's all thanks to you guys. So if you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. If you want to do me something solid, leave us a 5-star review. Click subscribe on our podcast, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Even if you don't listen to the audio format, that is a humongous help for us. And we have been growing tremendously because you guys have been doing that. So thank you for that. It takes 30 seconds to do. Get on Apple Podcasts, search Buckeye Scoop, click, download most recent episodes, subscribe to it, and then just click on the 5 stars and boom, you're done. 30 seconds. So appreciate you guys for doing that. So again, there's some good football kicking off. My wife's Knowles are getting after it right now, so I'm going to go up there and watch that with her. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. And thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow, 7 p.m. sharp. Can't wait to talk to you guys again. Go Bucks.